The way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them. Ida B. Wells.
A woman is like a tea bag. You never know how strong she is until she goes in hot water. Eleanor Roosevelt.
Ideals such as Republican motherhood, which later morphed into the cult of domesticity, taught that a woman's only role was to raise her children to be positive role models in society and be the perfect wife for her husband. As the U.S. moved into the 20th century, women's roles continued to shift as industrialization took hold in more parts of the country. More and more women entered the workplace. Labor unions, such as the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, organized women who worked in sweatshops. As the 20th century progressed, certain groups such as African, Asian, Hispanic, and Native Americans gained legal rights, however only on paper. Additionally, under the Kennedy-Johnson administrations, through the Civil Rights Act, women increasingly gained more political and economic standing. However, the developments were not enforced. One of the key figures of the women's movement in the 60s was Betty Friedan, who formed the National Organization for Women in 1962 and pushed for the Equal Rights Amendment, which would prevent states and the federal government from discriminating on the basis of sex. However, the law was never ratified, thus allowing for discrimination to continue.
Collectively, women have endured many trials and tribulations, but one of the major problems today is the wage gap. Women in the workforce are mostly known for not earning as much as men, or earning 77 cents for every dollar earned by men. The organization, Institute for Women's Policy Research, or IWRP, states that regardless of the level of qualification, jobs predominantly done by women pay less on average than jobs predominantly done by men. According to the organization's Center for American Progress, researchers estimate that a portion of the overall gender wage gap can be attributed to factors such as occupation, differences in hours worked, and time spent in the labor force. It is important to consider other specific influencing factors like race and ethnicity, which can affect earnings. When examining the wage gap for women of color, however, it becomes clear that on average, women of color experience a much greater wage deficit than white women do to white men. For women of color, the explained factors that contribute to the wage gap are often different from those of white women due to the fact that women of color frequently work in lower paying jobs, in the service sector, and in sales and office jobs. This trend is particularly pronounced for Hispanic women. Among working women in 2014, 62% of Hispanics were clustered into just two job groups: service and sales and office occupations. This is compared with 57% of blacks and 44% of Asians in the same job category. According to IWRP, if change continues at the same slow pace as it has done for the past 50 years, it will take 44 years or until 2058 for women to finally reach pay parity. For women of color, the rate of change is even slower. Hispanic women will have to wait until 2248, and black women will have to wait until 2124 for equal pay.
Myths versus facts. Myth. Women tend to choose lower paying careers than men. There are variations between certain jobs and wages. For example, a waitress will make less than a doctor or an engineer. Studies show that lower paying careers appeal more to some women because certain fields have a greater proportion of women in comparison to others. However, the fact of the matter that certain careers on average have lower pay ranges, such as pediatricians, is a problem. Researchers show that when women enter male-dominated career fields, pay drops. Also, according to the National Organization for Women, or NOW, upon college graduation, women who had similar education and experience made 82% of what men earned. In this case, education is not the solution to fixing this problem, especially for women of color. The Lilly Ledbetter Fair Act did solve the wage gap. In 2009, former President Barack Obama signed into law the Fair Pay Act, which reversed the original Supreme Court's decision in Ledbetter v. Goodyear case. The Fair Pay Act allows for individuals subjected to unlawful discrimination to assert their rights after 180 days following each paycheck to make a claim. However, there are some consequences. Employers are sometimes refusing to hire or fire certain applicants who are vocal about their rights. Myth. Women are paid less because they choose to be mothers. Women who have children in comparison to other women workers are perceived as more emotional and less committed and dependable. The US is the only wealthy country that does not have paid maternity leave. In Europe, for instance, governments encourage families to have children by offering prenatal incentives. Our federal government does not offer these same amenities, such as paternity leave, because it is not socially acceptable.
I raise up my voice, not so I can shout, but so those without a voice can be heard. We cannot succeed when half of us are held back. Malala Yousafzai.
We must believe that we are gifted for something and that this thing, at whatever cost, must be attained. Marie Curie.